Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another episode of Dr. Homebrew. And we have a show for you where we actually have one thing of homebrew, which is great, which is good for us. So we're on a roll here, you know what I mean? The bad news is I don't know, I don't actually understand if we have the same the same beer or not. So Cooper, do me a favor, man. You were trying to explain to me before we started, but I'm not a smart man.
Okay. Well, our friend Steve from BAM, who came on the show a few times ago and talked about the World Cup of Beer competition and judging and all of that, he gave us a beer. But I also separately saw him at a judging class that they were doing for the Bay Area Mashers. And there he handed me 3 beers. So one of those was the Scottish export that Brian only was able to taste on that show he did with us prior. And he gave me 2 other beers, 2 bottles each. So I'm like, well, hey, beer for the show. So I gave 1 bottle each of an English dark mild and an American stout to Brian. And then I had him give you the Scottish export because you didn't get to taste that one yet, I don't think.
Okay, so that's what I'm drinking?
And it was good. I guess you're drinking it already. Go.
It's delicious. Yeah.
It's wonderful.
It's great. I love it. It's a little well, anyway, we'll talk about it. But and then what are you guys drinking of his?
The English mild and the stout.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Oh, so you have both of them and I have this other thing.
And what kind of stout is that?
American stout.
American stout. Got it.
The 20A.
Okay. Yeah. So this is look, it's confusing, but we're doing it.
Then we have bonus beer if we want. We have a Ghost Town mild that I think we've tasted on the show before, but we're going to taste it again and just see how it plays next to this other mild we're going to taste, which you can't taste there, but you have beer. Sorry, JP.
You know what? Yeah, these are I kind of just like, you know what? I feel like I'm on I'm a dating coach on a blind date where it's like, okay, now that you guys have introduced, I'm going to step away. And you guys can continue the conversation and just see where it goes. Just have a little fun with it. Have fun with it.
Yeah. The beer was
the strangest place you've ever made whoopee. That'd be in the butt, Bob.
Wasn't meant to be on the show, this beer, nor that commentary that we just got from Brian, but we're doing it on the show. So it's pulling into this world.
What else are we going to do?
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to the Brew Strong guys, TC and Mike over there. And, you know, because I'm editing their shows and, you know, they keep talking about all the beer they've been brewing. And I was like, why aren't they on our show?
These guys are brewing a lot of beer.
They're brewing a ton of beer and they just like send it around to people. And I'm like, okay. So I emailed them both. I'm like, listen, jerks, we're going to get you guys on our shows. And fucking either was Mike or TC was like, sure, here's my spreadsheet of the next 6 months of my life that I'm brewing. Here's what I have. I have all these new hops coming. So whatever you guys want, it'll be great. I'm like, what the hell is this, dude?
Really interesting beers.
The man has a menu come. It's like, dude, I love this.
We're going to homebrew strong.
That is we finally organized.
Yeah.
Dr. Homebrew Strong.
We finally have, you know, people who are like, yeah, sure, dude. I just have whatever.
You're talking to these guys like, so like you guys have beer? Huh? Wait, we need beer.
Yeah. Hey.
We're just going to throw this out. Do you want to dredge it on the air?
Yeah. I mean,
the idea light bulb pops over JP's head.
Well, and it's like, you know, I guess what's prevented me from reaching out before now is that they're no slouches. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're judges, but I mean, they brew good beer from what I can hear. You know what I mean? They brew a lot of it. So I think that they know pretty much what's going on, but I'm like, maybe we can talk recipe or, you know, he goes, I'll pick out some good ones for him. Like, no, pick out the worst ones if you want to. Like, that's our role.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We are pigs. Let us roll in filth. You know, let's just do.
We drink. We judge horrible beer, so the audience doesn't have to.
Yeah. So
look
forward. So we haven't for a long time.
Yeah. Look forward to the Brew Strong fellas over there, who I guess are holding the fort down by themselves. Jamil's still ill. He's been ill for the past few months, and hopefully he's recovering nicely. And, I know Justin filled in for a little bit, but TC and Michael are flying on their own over there. So,
wow.
Good luck to them. They have one. Actually, no, the episodes that they are on are not out yet. I have one edited that should probably drop. The hell's that going to drop? I don't know. Maybe I'll release it early. Who knows? But next week sometime it'll happen. Maybe the week after. And they do a good job. They do they have 2 Q&A shows, and they hold it down on their own pretty good. And those guys are really knowledgeable. So we can have some good shows with them.
I think so. And it's a good reminder. I need to text Jamil and just say, hey, what's up? I hope you're feeling better.
Sure.
I haven't talked to him for ages.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's. What are we doing, Cooper?
Well, we would normally introduce the brewer and talk to the brewer, but he got sick and he couldn't make it on. He was going to come on, but Steve couldn't make it. So, but I do have his recipes. But yeah, again, Steve Davidson, he's president of the Bay Area Mashers here. And I believe he's running or heavily involved anyway with the World Cup of Beer. And I got to judge the best of show there, and he was stewarding for us a couple times ago. Just good guys. He's working hard and brewing some fun beers.
Nice. Well, he's not here, so we don't have to talk about him like that.
Okay.
We don't have to give him compliments,
Another thing,
for me.
I recently took the cider exam.
Oh, okay.
So
well, I'll tell you what. Let's drink one of his beers, and then we'll come back. And when we do the mild from Ghost Town, we can talk about your cider thing. What do you think of that?
Yeah.
All right.
I just also found a really random cider in my fridge that I don't know where it came from. It's in Oregon. Okay. Maybe it's from you, JP. I don't know, but
it can't be from me.
Yeah. Okay. Well, all right.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's take a quick break first, and then we'll come back and we'll jump into this beer. So hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back. All right. Thanks for hanging on, everybody. We are back, and we're going to be drinking one of Steve's beer. I believe it's the mild that you guys have. I don't have it, right? I have the Scottish 60 or whatever, right? All right. So who's going first? Coop, are you going first at this mild?
I accidentally poured some of his stout. I can go first on the mild. Sure.
All right, whatever. Or Shar can too.
Let me just give it a little rinse here. I've got it ready to go.
Shar, why don't you go first?
Why don't I go first for this one? I can go second for the stout.
Sounds good.
Which I'm upset because I love a mild and you guys have it and it makes me mad.
Well, it gave you a little Nigel.
Yeah, well, it's fine.
So you got that. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
So yeah, I love a good mild. It was a good experience. This is a preview. I like this beer a lot. I did not complete a full score sheet to my discredit, but I took some notes and we'll kind of walk through my notes overall. The aroma on this is pretty low, probably because I left this in the fridge until about a half an hour before the show. So it's a little colder than it probably should be for a mild. A mild is going to be one of those, if you have this in London or somewhere in England, it's going to be at cellar temperature, but it's going to be, 50s in the UK most of the time. Warm, people say that the British drink warm beer. It's warmer than it's not at 34 degrees. It's maybe more like 50, but a beer like this, you want it to be a little warmer to be able to taste it and smell it. Excuse me. Having said that, there's a low aroma, malt focused, not terribly complex, but it's getting more complex and interesting and more like the flavor as it warms up. So I gave this a 9 for aroma, more on the anticipation of this being a really great aroma in about half an hour, but we're not judging this in half an hour, we're judging it now. So that's, I'm sort of prejudging the aroma to some extent. Appearance, 3 points out of 3. It's dark brown with, I would say maybe not dark brown in the sense of a stout, maybe medium brown. It's very clear, got a very persistent, long-lasting head. You can tell a little bit here on the video if you happen to be watching this. I poured this probably half an hour ago, and there's still a nice ring around the edge of the glass and a little light foam in the center. So that's excellent job on that. Flavor. It's really interesting. Medium-low malt flavor, but it's a very complex flavor. I get biscuity, sort of a toast crust, a little toffee, low raisin. There's a lot going on here, and all of it is good. There's no off flavors that I can tell. It's well attenuated, low bitterness, balanced, no diacetyl. Finish is dry, malt focused, and long. So you get that 15 out of 20. Mouthfeel is, it's at that kind of medium low level, but because there's so much going on here, the perception of body is, I think, much more than you'd think for a beer this size. It's not by any means a large body. Maybe I'm not communicating this very well. There's so much happening in the flavor that I think it's not a one-dimensional beer where I think sometimes a one-dimensional flavor contributes to mouthfeel in the sense of, okay, you have the one dimension and your brain's not thinking about it, so then your perception of mouthfeel will go down also. I'm sorry, I'm wondering, my brain's wandering around here and ideas of perception and what that really means. But I really believe, excuse me, I really believe, because this is a complex beer.
Hey, RFK Jr., are you all right? Clear your throat.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just asking questions, Jason. I'm just asking questions about safety and efficacy, and
he microdosed on acid about 20 minutes ago, and it's
and ketamine and mushrooms, and I'm seeing different realities. One of which is mouthfeel. I give this 5 out of 5 for mouthfeel. Overall impression, 9.
You can see mouthfeel?
I can, well, yeah, I can see it. I can touch mouthfeel. I just got to shove my hand in my throat, which is not going to end well for me personally or the show. Overall impression, I give it a 9. This, like any smaller body beer, these are really hard to brew well. And I'll come back a little bit to the bane of my existence, brown malt. I feel like there's a little bit in here, just a touch, but it's kind of like the other beer of this brewer, that Scottish export. I was convinced there's a little bit of brown malt in there too, but like with Special B, it's great if you have a restrained hand with it and you don't go crazy. And this is a very, very British beer. It's fresh. It's wonderful. Total 42 points. I really like it a lot. If this were a competition, this would easily be, top 3 at a table. You could easily see this going on to best of show round. Very, very well done. Thanks to the brewer, who I wish could be here and talk about the beer, but hopefully next time. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
All right, Cooper.
All right. The dark mild. The beer had a little story about the beer. This was one that he gave me at our the beer judging class that BAM is putting on, a multi-week class, and I taught their class on filling out score sheets, basically judging and feedback. And I used some of Brian's presentation that you used with the Mad Zymers' class and just kind of modified that. And then I used some of my handouts that I give. So, but yeah, I gave you credit. I said all the nice beer graphics are your fault. Anyway, but I took the bottles and he gave me specific instructions, and I'm not always good at following instructions. So he said, this one needs to bottle condition a little longer. And I believe it was this one, but I kind of forgot, and I just tossed them in my fridge when I got home. So I get beer. I'm used to tossing it in my fridge, especially if someone wants me to critique it later, and I just want to treat it right. So, but I didn't think, and I was just in a hurry unloading all my crap. Anyway, just before like Valentine's Day / President's Day weekend, I was like, oh crap, I was supposed to let that condition a little longer. So I took the couple bottles out, left them sitting on our counter while we went away for the weekend. I came back and let them sit another couple of days, and then I'm like, okay, they're probably good. Put them in the fridge. So I wasn't sure if that interrupted like bottle conditioning fermentation was a bad thing for the beer or not. Looks like JP's falling asleep now.
No, I'm not falling asleep.
Anyway, so that's what happened there, and I was worried that was going to be a detriment to the beer, but it absolutely wasn't. It might have already just been conditioned when I got it. So this bonus warm conditioning for a few days. But anyway, the beer had a good fill, like his upon opening. In the nose, I actually got fairly pleasant richness in there. And it was equally cold probably as when you did. I ran it under some warm water for a minute, but not a lot. And I got dark toffee, medium high, some dark caramel. And I agree with the dark, like a dark bread crust in there. Kind of a low earthy hop note. We're kind of faint behind that. Clean fermentation is apparent with low fruitiness combining with the malt. A bit of some graininess in the nose. I didn't get any diacetyl or acetaldehyde or anything, any off aromas from fermentation. So I actually gave it a 10 out of 12 for aroma. I really enjoyed the aroma. I thought it was substantial for what you get in such a light beer. Appearance wise, it's a pretty dark copper, light brownish color to me, with a low light tan head, quite creamy in consistency, and some very some larger bubbles accompanying the finer ones, but just very clear beer. But the head retention was fantastic. It stuck around really well. Sometimes it doesn't with this beer. So I gave it 3 out of 3 for appearance. In the flavor, yeah, wow, kind of as expected. It's a flavorful ale, but it's interesting how you detect, okay, it's not very strong, and it's not sweet, so it's you're getting all these flavors, but it dries off your tongue, and you're just left with that flavor. But it did, I agree, the aftertaste, stuck around pretty well, and those malty flavors, the fairly complex malt in there, lingers nice and well. Yeah, so it's balance of the malt, softly caramelly and refreshing. No alcohol poking out, seems appropriately low. Light toastiness complements the malt profile. Very low earthy hop, and bitterness is low as well. So yeah, just a light fruitiness from the ale fermentation, but nothing really overt or standing out. It's just clean, no diacetyl, fairly dry finish. I thought it was just maybe leaning just a bit acidic. It's not tart, but there's the malts that are there. I detect a little bit of acidity, not intense or like a sour or a tart beer, but just the edge of the malt has that brightness that you get when a beer is a little more acidic.
I can perceive that.
Yeah. Body wise, I agree with what Brian said here. It's light bodied. I'll try to say it differently, but it's light bodied. There's no warming or astringency noted. The beer is somewhat creamy, smooth. It's not watery or completely lacking in heft, despite its lightness. It's light, but it's full. I don't know. It's a weird animal. But yeah, the CO2 is kind of up towards medium, but I guess still maybe medium low. So kind of medium low. I think possibly what it's a little high on CO2, I think, for the style. And that might be what's adding to that just lightly acidic character and making some of these flavors pop, quite honestly, for such a light beer that doesn't have a lot, usually a lot of massive flavors in it. So yeah, 4 out of 5 for mouthfeel. I was 15 out of 20 for flavor. And then 8 out of 10 overall impression. So very pleasant drinking, mild. It rewards the drinker with flavorful, characterful malt. Flavorful, characterful. And enough hop to balance. Just a bit perkier than expected when it comes to the CO2. If you reduce that just a bit, the next time might, make it just a little softer edged, but it's not like biting or anything either. So I really like it the way it is. So it's a fine adjustment, but I'd give it a 40.
It's pretty good.
I could see the 42. I almost went there too. So could use just a little adjustment, but I could see this being a good, doing well in a competition. And maybe we'll find out when the best of show and World Cup of Beer comes out and they all say it's rigged. The organizer, not the I don't think he's the organizer. I don't know what I forget what his role is. I'm equally, absent-minded as Brian today, I guess. But yeah, no, Steve.
I'm only asking questions.
Only asking questions. I'll stick with my 40, and we don't have to ask JP's opinion because he doesn't have this one.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion, man.
Just makes it easier.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Well, I love that. Do you have the recipe? You said
I do have the recipe.
Give
Yeah,
that out. I'm curious if
it's
anybody
all brown
listening,
malt. Sorry, no.
I'm curious if anybody listening has ever brewed a beer or used the recipes we give out as a baseline to then work on their beer. If you guys have, please email me. Let me know. JP@thebrewingnetwork.com. I'm just curious, because like if no one cares and we don't need to like give all this shit out.
Now we can say who brewed it better.
Yeah.
Like have a segment. We'll
I
go
just
back
want to know, like, you don't even need to send us beer, but I'm curious if it's like, good knowledge for you guys or not. That's all.
Okay.
All right, go ahead.
So the beer, it's called Stateside Mild, and it's a all grain recipe. The original gravity is 1040. It finished at 1015. Fermented moles in what's that? The 5.4 gallon batch, 7 pounds of Gallagher's Best at 2.6 Lovibond, 0.75 pound Chateau Cara Ruby, 19.3 Lovibond, a half a pound of chocolate malt, up towards 400, half a pound of Crystal, 60, and a half pound of medium Crystal, 120 L. It says medium Crystal 240, 120 L. I don't know what that means. Yep. Anyway, medium Crystal. Hops, there's just a ounce 0.1 of EKG at 60 minutes. And some water treatments we can get into if you want. The yeast used was the Lallemand Nottingham yeast. And so I guess it was built up from distilled water, calcium 103. Well, anyway, I can go into all that, but yeah, there's a lot of detail here.
Yeah, I wouldn't need water information.
I think that's good.
Is there any tips that you want to give? I mean, 40, 42 is pretty good scores. I mean, anybody would eat that up. But what do you have for like recommendations if we could kind of give it a skosh of a little juice, little Dr. Homebrew juice in?
Well, I could say, when bottle conditioning is done right, it's really really good for the beer in a bottle because it helps to scavenge oxygen and B, get enough carbon dioxide in the bottle. If you don't do it well, it can be a nightmare because it's, if you get any wild yeast or anything else in there besides the intended strain, or if your strain has kind of started petering out and it's not going, you end up with a little more sweetness than you might want in the finish, and it can be a bad thing. In this case, it's a good thing, but I think that it maybe the priming sugar was just a little high, maybe higher than he wanted. I don't know, but it's substantially perky and not over carbonated. It's not really at medium high, but it's noticeably carbonated. So, but it plays well with the beer and pushes a lot of flavors. So that's just a fine point for me. Back off the priming sugar just a little bit if you do it again.
Coop, what was the yeast again? I'm sorry, I don't think I caught that.
Nottingham.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good looking recipe. No brown, but that Cara Ruby intrigues me. That's a pretty heavy contribution there at 0.75. And the base malt Gallagher's Best. I've never used that, but it's really.
I've heard it. We've talked about it before. I think someone has mentioned that a couple of times. Yeah.
That's an almanac malt, right?
Oh, that must be
the almanac. Admiral
Maltings.
Yeah. And the brewer last time he was on talked about how much he loved the Admiral Maltings malt, and I suspect that's an Admiral Maltings malt.
I believe it is. I think that's their version of the Maris Otter, and I've used that before. Yeah, that's a good
AdmiralMaltings.com.
There you go. Don't say that, Brian. They're not a sponsor yet. They don't need an email address or a website.
I know. If they get some inquiries, all of a sudden there might be, hey, we need to beat these Dr. Homebrew guys.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly. That's exactly what will happen. All right. Any other commentary on this beer before we take a break?
What would you do to it, Brian? What was your suggestion for improvement?
What would I do to it? I
would drink the fucking shit out of it.
Pound it.
Yeah, it's a good question. This is one of those times where there's something I think I would like to have it be a little bit different, but not much, right? I mean, I scored it at 42, and we're kind of in that territory of, you know, maybe. And what was that 0.75 amount malt you were talking about? The Cara sub.
Cara Ruby, Chateau Cara Ruby.
Yeah,
0.75.
yeah, that might be a little much. I might mess with the malt bill just a little bit, but not very much. This is not something you want to. I think he's really close, and I would rather, rather than messing around wholesale, might want to, change some of the malt amounts around the edges, and that might be something I might back off on a little bit. Be 0.5.
Cool. Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, it's difficult. And then I'm not familiar that much with Nottingham. I pulled this up on the More Beer website, and it's got high flocculation, high attenuation. I think the attenuation is good. I think if it were less attenuated, it would come across maybe a little, even with a low gravity, it might come across, overly sweet or something. That's maybe playing around with a different yeast. But Nottingham, it's a British yeast. It's a good yeast. People use it all over the world all the time. I'm not sure that's going to get them much of anything to play with the yeast, but it's a factor. I mean, maybe that's why there's different yeast companies and different yeasts, right? They can all be good yeasts, but maybe one recipe might do a little better with a different English style yeast than another English style yeast. Yeah. So that's a thought.
Temps, all that kind of stuff, man.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very good. Well, Stephen, I hope that was helpful for you, and hope you get better, man. I don't know what to say. Let's take a quick break. We're going to come back. You guys are going to be doing Stephen's stout.
Yes.
We also have a bonus mild, but that's beside the point.
Yeah.
Going to drink that quick right now, or?
No. Well, I mean, I don't care. I don't even have it. Let's take a break. We're going to take a break. We'll come right back here on Dr. Homebrew with some kind of stout, which is, I'm told, is a kind of beer. So hang on. We'll be right back. All right. Welcome back, everybody, to Dr. Homebrew. We are still on Stephen's beers. We have an American Stout, and by we, I mean the Cooper, the Bryans. Almost said the Coopers.
We're hoarding to Homebrew. Sorry.
Yeah, which is fine. Hey, you guys deserve it. You know what I mean? So who wants to, Cooper, you want to start on that one, right?
Yeah.
Right,
I was also sipping that mild, but that's okay. Let me get the stout.
Here, while you're doing that, I'll comment on this Scottish. It's a little bitter. It's good. It tastes like kind of like an American Scottish 60, if that makes sense. It's a little aggressively bitter, but I like the roast. It's kind of a roasty thing. It's good. I'd give it a 35. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephen. I hope that's not offensive.
All right. So the American Stout, this is a category 20B in the 2021 guidelines. So the had a nice hits upon opening, good bottle fill. Yeah, boy, in the nose, I'm getting a very rich, some coffee-like malt notes up front, a light cacao alongside that. Very prominent malt. It's got a low resiny hop kind of in the background. Clean ale ferment is apparent. Medium low fruity esters, no diacetyl or acetaldehyde. Getting some low alcohol in there too, smooth and clean. Not a bad aroma at all. It's I go 9 out of 12 there. Appearance wise, it's a rich dark brown color, very creamy looking tan head with excellent retention. Clings to the edges of the glass with light lacing. Looks, the beer looks very clear at the corners. You can see through it, even though it's a pretty dark color. Seems like excellent clarity. So 3 out of 3 for appearance.
Nice.
The flavor is very richly malty, clean ale, fermentation with medium low fruitiness. Again, a low kind of citrusy resiny hop, hiding a bit. The balance is definitely to the malt. I would say this is just a bit on the ashy, acidic side as it warms, especially. And I let these beers all sit out a little longer, and it's not getting a lot heavier, but it's there. The there's something just a little.
I think that's a trend I'm noticing. Like between my beer that I have here, the Scottish, and when you guys talk about that, and then maybe a little bit from the mild, I think Steven likes to go a little bit too heavy on those kind of more roasty malts.
Yeah. Some people just really, like
get your
roast.
shit together, Steven.
We'll always push it up.
You could have been ruler of the world by now.
Aye. Instead, you're just the ruler of a stinking homebrew club. Gosh. Yeah. So yeah, very, very balanced source of malt. Okay, yeah, I said that. It is there's a prominent kind of medium high bitterness that to me seems as much from the malts or more as the hops. The beer finish is kind of medium sweet towards semi-dry, I guess. But that roastiness lingers in the aftertaste. I'd say just a bit much. It's not like licking an ashtray ashy, but there's an acidic and edgy dark malt in there. Not completely unpleasant, and it's not like a mouth coating roast bomb that just like makes you feel like you're chewing on coffee grounds at all.
Coop, I'm glad that I finally, after all these years, you've heard me say it enough times, you've adopted my licking an ashtray descriptor. So I feel like in a way I've won.
There you go.
It's like AI. It just reads the New York Times 6,000 times and it develops that same tone that they use. So,
God, could you imagine training an AI on me? That would just be the worst.
So we are real I guess. And we're doing the same thing. We're actual intelligence. And
Brian with an I, you guys.
Pretty soon.
Get it? Brian with an I.
We keep judging for 10
That's
years.
Right.
We'll both
we're not
say
AI, we're IA.
The exact same thing about every beer. The score sheet, like, oh, well, my score sheet is identical to yours again, Brian.
It's like we're married.
We're in the hive now.
I thought about that when I was like, oh, yeah, I'll give this beer a 35. Like, that's kind of my
go-to score.
Yeah, I guess like 90% of the beers I drink are like, oh, yeah, it's probably a 35.
That beer's fair to Midland. Let's call it a 35.
It's like saying, oh, it's good to meet you. It's like, I don't know. Is it good? I don't know. It's not unpleasant, so it's good then.
Okay.
Anyway, go ahead.
14 out of 20 for flavor. Clean fermentation. It's nice. Body-wise, it's so into the mouthfeel, medium-bodied. The medium-high carbonation driving things well. It's not very creamy, but it's also not super body. There's just maybe a light astringency that comes in as the beer dries off just from the darkest malts, but not really harsh, no obvious or harsh bite. And the alcohol that's there is smooth. It's not hot, just a touch. There's a touch of warming, very gentle warming down into the throat. Again, is it acidity alongside that, but with the CO2 kind of being a little higher. The head is just, it stays forever and it's just easily roused, and it's still very creamy looking, and it's a fantastic head retention. One of the best probably I've seen, in an American stout anyway. It's like Belgian beer head retention here. Yeah.
Wow.
It's but 3 out of 5 for mouthfeel. Overall impression, I'd say this is a well-crafted and a bold American stout. Not bold on the hoppy side, but just bold, mostly on the malt and the richness of the dark malts there. Got a lot going for it. Seems like very fresh ingredients were used. But yeah, it treads the line, just being a bit too overtly rich and roasty, not quite to burnt, but just lightly ashy and heading towards that territory. So I just think to bring a little bit of balance, back off the darkest malts just a bit, somewhat, and you could also get away with bringing up the hops a modest amount. You don't have to go crazy.
What is a bit, do you think? I mean, I guess we'll get into the recipe when it's recipe time, but like, what am I trying to say? What is the point? Like 0.25.
On this one, I would say I don't know how many pounds were used, but I would go
Yeah.
maybe more like percentages. I would say 10
Okay.
to 15%.
10 to 15%. Okay.
Less of the darkest malt.
Okay. Because I'm curious to be like how much is noticeable. You know, at what point do you not notice, and it's just an exercise, right? And making you feel good.
Yeah,
So,
you drop a half an ounce or something. It's not going to change it much.
Yeah, is it really? Who knows, man?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, the CO2 could come down just a touch too. But this is again the opposite problem of most bottled home brews. They usually are undercarbonated, and this one is perfectly perky and nicely carbonated with a great head. And I believe these are both bottle conditioned, so that's probably part of the reason. So but yeah, 36 total for the score. I gave it 7 out of 10 overall. So I feel like it's in that very good, towards the high end of very good category. Could just use a little light adjustment to come into a little bit better balance. That's my take on it.
Cool. Excellent. All right, Shar. Hit him up.
Hey. All right. Yeah, I largely echo what Coop said. Aroma got medium roast, medium to high roast, got some low chocolate, medium low coffee. It's interesting and it's complex. It is dominated by the roast aroma, but that's okay. It's an American stout. This is supposed to be a highly roasted, bitter, hoppy, dark stout. So I gave that 9 for aroma. Appearance 3 out of 3. It's very dark brown, persistent head, opaque, but clear around the edges. You can always kind of see if you tilt the glass on the edge, get some idea of clarity. So again, 3 out of 3 for that. Flavor, it's richly malty. I agree with Coop on that. High roast flavor. It's well attenuated. Medium bitterness. So bitterness definitely balances the malt. I think where it kind of falls down in flavor for me is there's a very low resiny hop flavor if I think about it real hard, but I shouldn't have to think about it real hard. American Stout is a beer that's supposed to be pretty bitter, right? 35 to 75 IBU, but it's also supposed to have a lot of a fair amount of hop flavor. The flavor, in fairness, the style guidelines call for low to high hop flavor, generally citrusy or resiny. And I think if you're going to brew this beer for competition, you don't want to go with low hop flavor. You want to go with at least medium hop flavor. You want to have the judge be able to say, hey, I'm getting, some kind of citrus, some kind of dank, some kind of something in the earthiness in the hop flavor. And I just don't get much hop flavor here. Doesn't mean it's bad. There's nothing off about this. There's no off flavors. I just, from an expectation of what I'd want to see or taste in an American stout, that part is lacking here. Finish, there's no diacetyl. Finish is dry with a hint of sweetness. I think I found this to be a little bit drier than Coop did, but that's okay. The finish is long. It's roast malt oriented. I gave it 13 out of 20 for flavor. Mouthfeel, it's carbonated properly. I think it's be slightly warming. It's tasty. Tasty's not a mouthfeel. It hits all the points of mouthfeel. 5 out of 5. Overall impression, a 7 for a total of 37. That score is primarily from what I said in the flavor. There's nothing bad about this beer. There's no off aromas, no off flavors. It's just the expectation that I would for American Stout for me is going to have some degree of hop flavor, which is really just not present in this beer.
Yeah.
So next time I'd suggest, it's hard to find a good pairing of hops with a dark beer. I've always found something like Nugget works well for me, but there's plenty of other choices.
Nugget.
A lot of Nugget. But I always hopped my Christmas stout pretty highly with Nugget.
Yeah.
A lot of the new school hops I would maybe avoid with a dark beer like this. I mean, it's worth experimenting. That's why we homebrew, is to try new things. Exactly. But I think some of the tropical fruity type hops may not fit as well. But although someone out there might surprise us, if you're brewing American Stout with some Rewaka or something, and it's fantastic, send some in. I want to try that out.
Yeah, I think it's ayahuasca. I think it's how it's.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I should have that when I'm already on ketamine and everything else. No, that's just a joke. Could I still taste beer if I was on ketamine? I have no idea what that.
There's only one way to find out, and that's ask your daughter when she goes to college. Man, I got two jokes, baby. We're going. We're coming. We're getting in there.
She's graduating from high school in May.
Yeah.
Shocking. But 37, I liked it a lot. Stephen, thank you so much for sharing more of your beer with us. Keep it coming because I think we're all enjoying it a lot. So thank you very much.
Hey, he said he's got some new batches coming.
Nice.
So, yeah. I do have Steve's recipe here.
All right.
Go into that. This one is just American Stout. And the batch size of 5 gallons. The original gravity on this one is 1064, and it finished out at 1015. Fermentables, we've got the base malt is a 13.5 pounds of the Admiral Malting's maiden voyage, which is interesting. I'm reading about that on here too, and that is it's a biscuity pale malt with earthy and sweet aromas of dry grass and toast with honey and peanut butter. It says on their website. Maiden Voyage is the first batch of malt produced at Admiral's Malt House. Its pioneering journey through steep, floor, and kiln was not without mishap, but we are proud of the final result. Maiden Voyage is a pale malt with a light golden color, robust, earthy, and sweet aroma, and subtle biscuity flavor. The grain is grown sustainably by California family farms. So that's about as local as you get for us here. Anyway, so that's 13.5 pounds at 2.8 L. A pound of flaked barley, 0.625 pound caramel, 81.8 caramel crystal, so it's crystal 80 basically. 0.625 pound pale chocolate malt, a 225 Lovibond, and a 0.375 black malt, and 0.313 roasted barley. Hops, a little ounce and a ounce 0.1 of CTZ, 12% alpha at 60 minutes. And there is a flavor and aroma addition, a 15-minute 1 ounce Cascade, 6.1, a 5-minute 1 ounce Cascade edition at 6.1 alpha. The IBUs, by the numbers here, it's 41 for bittering, 12 for flavor, and 9 for aroma. So that's like 62. So just but you get some bitterness from the malts too. So anyway, that is what they use for grains and hops. The yeast is an imperial yeast darkness, A10 with sufficient starter, and again built up from distilled. So
stuff.
40,
40 SRM is the predicted color. Anyway, that's the rest.
What's interesting to me is in my experience, Cascade tends to get lost in a dark beer. And that's, I end up, if you want to get some flavor out of Cascade and a stout, and it seems like, at least when I would brew at least one stout a year, I'd have to add like 2 or 3 times more Cascade for flavor than I would for a lighter beer. Mm-hmm. There's something about it doesn't seem like it stands up the dark malt. Maybe that's, I think that might be what happened here is in a normal beer, if you were making a pale ale or something, you would definitely get that at that concentration, but it just kind of gets lost. Something about Cascade to me gets lost in a dark beer.
Is it? You think it's because I'm just spitballing here, obviously, because I don't know, because I'm stupid, but because Cascade is kind of a mild hop, and you need a lot of it to even just be present in, I think, maybe a pale ale or something like that. But maybe the dark malt can kind of cover up those. Would you say woodsy sort of undertone to the Cascade? And there's not, the flavor is sort of can get lost in any malt that has a little bit of a woodsy flavor vibe out of it. It's not just like, Pilsner or pale, but anything like a roasted, anything a crystal 15 and up is probably going to mask a little bit of it.
Yeah, I think that's 100% right.
Maybe. Hell yeah, dude.
Possibly like a Chinook or something might give you a little more of that resiny character. Centennial, something else in there. Mix those together perhaps and try a different hop blend. But
hell yeah.
The Cascade, the flavor that's there is nice. It's just very backgroundy. I agree with that.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Well, I think that all sounds great, you guys. I don't know. I don't know about you. I don't know about me, but that sounds awesome to you. Or wait, something like that? Hold on, I don't know.
But I enjoyed. Stephen, thank you very much for sharing both of these beers. Didn't mean to beat up on the stout, but it's a 37, right? I mean, it's well made.
Bro, I would murder my family for a 37.
Depending on the
I wouldn't do that.
It could get a third place. Just
you don't care about beer competitions as much as I do, Char.
You would have murdered your family for less than a 45. Come on, man.
Well, look, man. I'm. If anything, I keep my feet on the ground. Whenever I'm thinking of murder, I like to really keep my feet on the. Anyway,
keep your feet on the ground, but shoot for the stars.
Yeah, man. That's what you do. You know what I mean?
The other Scottish export is nice too. I'm finally tasting that Brian got to judge for us, and then he nailed it. So that was great.
Hell yeah!
Good job that I could have done that.
Char. Nerd.
That was maybe my highlight of my. I've enjoyed doing Dr. Homebrew. I've done this for like 10 years. It's been fantastic. That may have been the highlight of my Dr. Homebrew time.
Yeah,
that's it. You can retire early now.
Besides interviewing Matthias from Schlenkerla, but
that was the true highlight. That was amazing.
Oh yeah, this Scottish. Awesome. Judging a beer and then like just being given a beer blindly and saying, okay, here's 5 styles this could be. Name the style, or what style is this? Hand you a beer, and if it's not a pale ale or an IPA, I might have there's many styles that have a fair amount of crossover, and they might be a better example of one versus the other. If you get a group of 3 or 4 judges together and get a consensus, what is this? Some of them might have different answers, but it sounds like you congealed with the other judges that were out there.
I feel like it was this. I took the Somm exam and nailed it, but for beer.
This is a California Zinfandel 2012
Amador Valley.
Yeah.
Or it's like the scene in
wild to me that people
the scene in Napoleon Dynamite where he's like judging the milk. This cow got into the garlic patch.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, man.
I haven't seen it for a billion years. It's good.
Never seen it at all, ever. I don't know why.
When we got married, we had a costume wedding at the California Magic Club in Martinez, and my stepson and his girlfriend were characters from Napoleon Dynamite. It was like Napoleon Dynamite and his girlfriend.
Nice.
And they were fantastic. They were spot on.
All right. Well, that's it, right? Or do you want to? What do you want to say about this mild here, real fast, before we get out of here?
The little Nigel. Yeah. It's honestly, I liked Steve's homebrew quite a lot. And when I drank this, it's a little sharper. Yeah. There's a brighter fruitiness in the nose, and it's kind of a sharper presentation in the flavor when you get into there.
Definitely a lot more fermentation fruitiness. There was a little bit in Stevens. This has got a lot more of that fruitiness, frankly. And I'm not trying to blow smoke over people that are, sending us beer. I think I prefer Stevens.
Mm-hmm. You do? Oh, well, I didn't have the mild, so I can't berate you too much. But that's insane to me.
But this is as I'm drinking it and coming off of the stout and the Scottish, it's plenty light. It's in the right territory. It's not overcarbonated.
No,
that's one thing I would say is the carbonation on this one's probably in a better place for the style.
Yeah,
agreed.
No, it's got a lot of malt.
There's a thing that milds can have sometimes where I'm gonna say this word, and I don't mean literally this word, but metallic. There's like a copper penny mineral metallic thing that sometimes some of the malts that you can use in there, like the mid brown malts, the mid crystal malts can get. Yeah. And to me, that is like, I don't know what it is, but the Ghost Town beer has it, and to me that seems more authentic. And maybe it's just because it might also smack of like being a little old, and so any mild that I've had is clearly not fresh from England.
Yeah.
So it's
it's got this little kind of tang to it, and I get sometimes I get the same thing in like Polish brewed Baltic porters. Like they have that kind of tang to them.
Yeah,
and that's a much different beer. It's a higher alcohol and everything. But
is that just heat? Do you think, like just damage, like some kind of
could be like an oxidation effect of some kind?
Yeah,
but
maybe, huh?
It's not like licking a coin or tinny or bloody. Really,
no.
Right.
It's like 40% of that. Where it's like it's just enough to be noticeable. But still a fantastic beer. Once again, still Ghost Town. It's hard to fault Ghost Town beers. And great beer. So Shar, thanks for bringing that up again.
No, it's my pleasure. It's a commute so far when I have to go to work. There's about once every 2 weeks, sometimes once every week, I end up stopping at Ghost Town on the way home just to get out of the damn car after I've been in the car for like an hour and a half. Like I'm going to stop and have a beer and or some food and then continue for my next 45 minutes to an hour to go home. So that's go to the one in Laurel, which is the one is right there at like 13 and 580. And it's a nice stop. Even if I just go and have one beer and keep going, I've gotten out of the car for 20 minutes and I'm fine.
Yeah. Cooper, real fast, how was your cider judging thing? What
so
cider judge?
Doe's put it on
Doge? Elon Musk gave you a cider to Doge? Did you punch him in the dick?
It's the Department of the Cider Efficiency did it. Yeah. The Diablo Order of Zion Miracle Enthusiasts.
No, not Doge. Not Doge, but Doe's. Got it.
Formal about it.
Yeah.
But it was great. There was a full exam, and it was kind of, I've been meaning to and trying to get involved with the cider side of things for a long time. I've done mead a while back, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And there have been times where I've signed up for the cider exam because Dave Teckham was giving them like usually every year in the spring. And I would sign up for it, and then I just would never study, and I would never get to the point where I'm just not going to be ready and I can't do it. And so I'd drop off. But anyway, this one is like, okay, it was nicely organized in that it was a limited time commitment for me. I could read on ciders as much as I wanted leading up to it. And I did do some studying, but and apple varietals and all that. But we did a 1-day class, and we all went, and it was like 9 to 4. So we spent all day talking about ciders, all the different styles, tasting, started tasting ciders at like 10 a.m. and finished with a little aftertaste, at probably 5 in the afternoon. So it was like all day, but I mean, very straight and sober by the end of it. There was no overindulging at all. I was just like very light taste of stuff. And I brought some ciders that I like to share, and from Humboldt Cider Company up there. So anyway, but yeah, the exam, I feel like it went well. The entrance exam is a little nerve-wracking. It's even shorter than the beer or mead ones. That's like 30 minutes and like 100 questions. It's just like quick, and that was like done before I was like, oh, okay. Started kind of taking my time on some of the questions and marking them and thinking about things. And I looked at the time left, and I was like, oh man, I'm getting down to it. So I had to start answering questions, bam, bam, bam. But passed it on the first attempt there, and then I feel like I wrote some pretty good score sheets, and they did some reveals for the scoring that the proctors gave, matched very well with what I did. So I feel like I should get a good score on it. I always, as you know, I'm verbose and I write very full score sheets. So I'm pretty sure that by this time, 6 months from now, or whenever the results come back, I should have the trifecta, the cider exam alongside the mead, the cider endorsement alongside my mead endorsement, and my
hell yeah, dude,
the Grandmaster 2-ness that I just wave in everybody's face, So, yeah,
I love it, man.
So now
what's harder? What's harder, BGCP or cider?
The beer or the cider side?
Yeah,
the cider, you have to know a lot about apple varietals and which ones are bitter sharp versus bitter sweet, or just all the different apple varietals. There's so many names to them, and people that have that memorized and can rattle off apple varietals and understand what each one tastes like. It's like a wine person, like the wine sommelier you're talking about is like,
Yeah.
they know the vintage of the grapes and where it came from and
Yeah.
everything. It's like,
Yeah, to me that stuff is weird, and look, I think autism should be celebrated also, but that I will never understand that.
Yeah.
That is like such a niche. Like I can barely remember. I play a lot of video games, and like people go, "Oh yeah, remember when this happened to the thing?" Like, no. What are you talking about? I just push the button, number go up, and like that's it. Like I don't know. I've never been able to recall kind of very specific information like that. So bless those people who can. I don't care, I guess.
And I don't think judging
ADHD too much,
Yeah. Judging beer, cider, mead, it shouldn't be to that level of geekiness. It's about having a conversation like we have. And sometimes we disagree. Sometimes we're spot on. Sometimes we get tricked, and it's fine. It's fun.
What if we started our own judging program? Let's think about it on the break, because
the DRCP.
Because we could definitely like just make it more casual. I don't know. I'm kidding. Let's get out of here, everybody. We're gonna leave. We're gonna scram. If you are watching us live on Facebook for whatever reason and you're not saying anything, that's not nice. But if you are, and whatever, we'll be right back. We're gonna have some more beers. We're gonna have commercial beers. And we're gonna do some commercial calibration stuff. We're gonna do some flavor talking and whatever.
And yakking about stuff. But yeah, we should also mention that if people want to send us their homebrew, please email me, Brian with an I, at thebrewingnetwork.com.
There you go.
Tell us what you've got, and you can send us a few bottles at your leisure, and we'll get them on the show. We would love to taste your homebrew, cider, mead. I'm gonna, have it all. Brian says he can't judge cider or mead very well, but he does just fine when we make him do it.
I can judge cider okay. Mead's not my strong suit, that's for sure.
Okay, yeah.
There's only one way to find out, Shar. There's only one way to do it, and that's to copy off the person next to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Until Dr. Homebrew, and until next time, we'll see you later.